And we are live. Uh, Let me go live on Instagram. Alrighty. Hello, everyone. I have been having some technical difficulties, so I need you to tell me if you can hear me. If you can put in the chat whether you hear my sound, I would appreciate it. Um, all right. And we have our guest here.
Hello, Dr. Nelson. Hi, everybody. Are we live?
Yeah, we're live already. I start
Nice.
at 3 with guests or without guests.
What with what?
I said I start at 3 whether the guest is here or
Oh, that's
not. So uh
that's hilarious. Yeah,
yes.
well, the show must go on.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. By the way,
Thank
I had a
you.
question for you back, you know, to do backstage, but how you pronounce your last name?
Zaldivar.
Saldivar. Okay.
Yes, perfect.
I am from Puerto Rico. Spanish is my first language, so I would have pronounced it Sa-
Zaldivar.
Saldivar. Yes.
Yeah, it's a Spanish last name. It's from Basque, from Spain.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
And in Spanish, there are people who spell it with a Z and with an S.
Right,
Uh,
right. The lady that killed Selena, her last name Yolanda Saldivar with an S.
all right. Well, thank you for being here. Uh, I Let me see. Let me read this because I wanted to introduce you with
Okay.
some of your information. Dr.
Hello,
Sarah
everybody.
Saldivar, with over 17 years of experience, has received her doctorate in exercise physiology and nutrition from the University of Miami. By the way, I'm a Florida resident. I've
Oh,
been in Florida for 30 years. Right now, I am in San Diego, California, because I was traveling. But
nice.
I
Where
live
you? Yeah.
I live in Central Florida, Volusia County, and I've worked in Ocala and the
Oh,
villages for several years of my career.
wow. You're my neighbor.
Yes.
I love it.
Uh, she taught at the University of Miami, Miami-Dade College, and the American College of Sports Medicine for
Mhm.
over a decade before quitting to focus on her full-time research and content creation on YouTube, Instagram, and other platforms. Dr. Salvar struggled with her weight and health before finally transforming her health and fitness. She also offers very popular weight loss and addiction treatment guides, and I'm sure you're going to tell us about that, and one on one coaching services through Zoom by creating personalized exercise meal plans, supplementation, and mindset protocols. That's actually from her YouTube page, and I do have her page linked in the description of my channel, although we're transmitting through Dr. Kill's channel. So if you go over to my channel, you'll see her link there.
Are we on YouTube Live? Is that where we're at?
We're on YouTube, Rumble, LinkedIn, TikTok, X. We're everywhere.
Love
Instagram.
it.
We're in multiple channels. We're usually Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Also Tuesdays and Thursdays, 3 p.m. And then on Mondays at the Zoom uh,
Mm-hmm.
call that we have with the Kilt's Mighty Tribe. And I
Mm-hmm.
think you've been before with Dr. Kilt's,
Yeah.
right?
We filmed the carnivore show together in Costa Rica. And before
Yeah,
that, yeah, we've done interviews on my channel, his channel. Yeah.
yeah. You're talking about reverse. I did see that been a couple of years already. All
Yeah.
right. So I'm gonna ask the people that are here, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat with a QQQ in front so I can see it and don't miss it. Hello to everyone. I already see Nikki and Amy, Cheryl, Bruce, Catherine, and several people here already. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. And I'm going to let Dr. Sarah here uh, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and what we like to hear is stories of healing. And
Mm.
I do know you have your story, and then we can also talk about what you actually do with clients.
Yeah, so I went through the traditional route to become a dietitian, bachelor's, master's in nutrition dietetics. Did the whole thing with the internship like for a whole year, and then you become kind of like board certified to become licensed. Then I flew to Miami where I got my PhD in exercise physiology and nutrition from the University of Miami. Then I taught at Miami-Dade College and UM and the American College of Sports Medicine and became certified personal trainers and all that kind of stuff. But throughout the whole time, not once were we taught about the ancestral living, right? The ancestral diet. But I had started to learn about that around the age of 18 because I had acne and I tried everything. I've done spironolactone for 2 years, birth control pills for a long time, antibiotics, which was the dumbest thing that I did for 3 months, uh, Accutane twice, nothing worked until I read the book, The Acne Cure by Dr. Lauren Cordain. He's like the grandfather of the modern paleo movement. He retired now. He was a professor at Colorado State University, I believe, and he spent his whole career researching hunter gatherers and ancestral diets and paleo diets. And I tried it and it worked. And so that was the first time that I realized that the doctors and like the traditional authority figures don't really know everything, if anything. And so that's when my healthy skepticism started, and and so I was open to that idea, but I still did not really use it for anything else. So it was just like, yeah, I knew that paleo helps my skin, and that's the only thing that works. But whenever life would get busy, I would just go and see another dermatologist. The only thing that worked was spironolactone because it's an androgen blocker, so it mimics a low carb diet because it blocks the androgen receptors. So it's as if you're eating a low carb diet in a way. But of course, then that causes depression. So it's like you don't want to live, but your skin is clear. Um, Charge more. I was told that acne came from eating meat and fats, yet I never got any. Yeah, that's what we're told, right? Because it's like because what they tell us is a meat and fat diet is really a junk food diet because there are no studies on a real carnivore diet. So after that experience, I realized that keto helped my mental state. I was developing a lot of anxiety because I had never taught in public or at all, like public speaking. And I started my PhD at UM. And as a PhD student, right away, they give you classes to teach. So here I am, very, very young, and I'm teaching students that are pretty much very close to my age. I'm 25. There are lots that were around my age, some even older. So, and I was getting a lot of anxiety from that naturally because I just didn't have the experience. And keto helped my mental state. It didn't remove the anxiety. That was like only just a knowledge gap. Once that was, just the more experience I got, the more comfortable I felt teaching. But it did, but the keto diet did make me feel different in that I had more energy and I had more mental clarity. So I kind of remembered that. And from there, you just naturally gravitate towards a carnivore diet because then you start, I read the Plant Paradox book by Dr. Stephen Gundry, and I realized how my, like, for example, one of the other like aha moments is when my hubby had really debilitating low back pain. He had a bulging disc, saw all of the main surgeons and doctors and specialists at the University of Miami and Jackson Memorial Hospital, like that whole system. And they were like, listen, you have a bulging disc. And because I was reading the plant paradox, I told him about plant toxins. And the only plant food he ever ate was a lot of spinach. Believe it or not, I was like, listen, just take it out just to see. Within 3 days, even less, his lifelong debilitating low back pain completely went away. So he still has the bulging disc if you do the scan, but just no pain, no symptoms, no inflammation. So, things like that along the way made me realize that just carnivore has a lot of healing properties. And then, of course, then you start helping your clients with that, and you hear your clients' stories and transformations. And yeah, I love the carnivore diet. When I would teach at the Miami-Dade College right before I finally quit to focus on online work. I remember like I would definitely tell them all about the carnivore diet. I had to go through the traditional curriculum, obviously, but also we would do a lot of Q&A and discussion, and I would talk a lot about uh, plant anti-nutrients and how sometimes there are certain things that you might never have thought are related to diet that can actually just completely go away, like skin issues, mental health issues, just by yeah, focusing on meat.
Everything gets better, and as a matter of fact, the last time I worked in Ocala, I was doing pain management. I'm a family practitioner by training, but I've done a lot of everything in over 40 years, and I have a personal back problem story. 1987, and I know that that date is significant to you. I had back surgery, and also 17 days later, my oldest was born in 1987.
Wow.
So I have had chronic back pain. My back is still looks horrible. I did have surgery coming up in November. It's going to be 38 years, and I have no pain. It went
Wow.
away with a carnivore diet.
How long did it
But
take for that pain to go away?
you know what? This is the thing with pain. You don't notice it when it's not there, right?
Right.
So it went away at some point, and yeah, at some point I said, "Wait a second, I'm not having pain, but I have no idea exactly the day or anything like that." I
Yeah.
suffer with plantar fasciitis for over 35 years. The same thing. At one day I said, "Wait a second, I haven't had my foot pain." So
Wow.
the thing
Yeah.
with pain is we notice it when it's there. When it's not there, we're not conscious that it's not there unless we're thinking about it. But yes, chronic pain goes away before you shed any weight, before many other things happen with the diet. One of the things, and not for everyone, I've had people, oh, my pain hasn't gone away. Well, it's not the same for everyone, but it definitely goes away fairly quickly within weeks, sometimes.
Wow. Yeah. I've seen crazy stories like that. So yeah, I believe it.
So, how long have you been carnivore?
I believe when I read the plant paradox is when I really started experimenting and I didn't do it straight like right away. I would do honey and I would do sweet potatoes. I think it took, I don't know, it's difficult to pinpoint a day, because it was like gradual, and I just stopped buying vegetables, and then I would keep getting like the sweet potatoes, and then eventually realize that I would overeat the sweet potatoes a little too much with the honey, and then quit that. So yeah, it's been a long time.
So, and there, I'm not an extreme dogmatic where you can have any plants ever. Sometimes from time to time you can tolerate maybe eating a little bit, but sometimes the message gets confusing out there about the carbohydrates and the honey or the fruits.
Yeah.
Um, Me personally, I don't tolerate carbohydrates very well because for 30 years I had diabetes, even though my A1C has been over two, about 2 years, 5.4, but
Nice.
I really don't tolerate much.
Yeah.
Occasionally, I may have a very low carb something, and I just can do that on a regular basis. And there are
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people like me that they were so metabolically sick that it either takes a very long time or you just can't handle having a significant amount of carbohydrates.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, by the
Yeah.
way, you had read a comment from Rick. Rick is from Miami, by the way,
Hi,
and
Rick.
he's been carnivore for 41 years.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, I love what you said. The dogma thing is real, right? It's okay if I feel like sometimes people have so much healing and they want to share that with everybody. Hi, Rick. And so it's important to realize that it's okay. Not everybody has to do that perfectly, strictly forever, Just do what works for you. And oftentimes if you don't have a strong enough reason to stick with it, it's difficult, right? It's difficult to justify, let's say, not even eating a little bit extra carbs if you don't have, let's say, diabetes and maybe your body tolerates it. It's You got to find a strong reason to do certain things. And so having an open mind and just kind of relaxing about it a little bit, I think is far more helpful to a lot of people.
And I've heard you talk in the past about anxiety, depression, addiction, and a personal story relating to some of those things. Also, a little bit of weight.
Yeah.
So tell us about, because sometimes tolerating the carbohydrates is not only about the blood sugar or the weight, it's about anxiety, depression,
Yeah.
and addiction, which sometimes we don't realize how bad we feel from them until we have a clear mind. If we eliminate a bunch of stuff, wait a second, I feel my mind feels clear. So talk to us
Yeah.
about that, please.
Yeah, and there's a lot of recent research also coming out right now showing how people doing keto, just doing keto without even any kind of intervention for addictions or eating disorders, which, by the way, eating disorders and addictions can share very similar physiological pathways in the brain. People are Now it's few case studies, obviously, so we don't have like large sample sizes, but
Mhm.
the studies that are being published in the last few years are so shocking that it's worth sharing that information. Um, People are spontaneously overcoming eating disorders, depression, and anxiety just by being in ketosis. We're not even talking carnivore. I think carnivore can help even more people, but we're just talking just being in a state of ketosis, just eliminating carbs or eating less than 25 grams of carbs per day until your ketones, if you're testing your blood ketone levels, go up to zero point 0.8. Usually it seems like 0.8 millimolar per liter to 2 millimolar per liter, and a little bit higher than 2 seems to be that therapeutic range. So it's very exciting. The founder of Roblox, I forget his name, the family, they had a son. Well, their son had a very, very terrible depression.
Basuki.
Yes, exactly. And they took him to all the doctors and all the medications, all the therapy, and they're well off. So they did everything they could and nothing worked, to the point where one day, like, he was found behind a bench on a park somewhere, homeless. The only thing that helped him was a ketogenic diet, literally cured him of debilitating mental health issues. And that's why they founded the YouTube channel, Metabolic Minds, I believe it's called, where they're just they started this nonprofit to share the message of just how powerful being in a state of ketosis is for mental health. So, and I mean, I experience, and that I'm sold too, because I experienced the effects of keto on my mental clarity.
And certainly it's amazing, and to the point where I think a year ago or maybe even earlier this year, I don't remember, uh, someone opened a center in Philadelphia as an inpatient mental facility for basically putting them, the only treatment, they'll continue the traditional medications if you are on them, but the intervention that they're doing is putting you on a ketogenic diet. And it is
Wow.
amazing to see bipolar illness, even schizophrenia, getting
Mhm.
better and sometimes completely eliminated, uh,
Wow.
eliminating the symptoms. These are obviously very debilitating conditions.
Y-
Autoimmune disease. Uh,
Yeah.
on Thursday, I'm going to have someone who hasn't had a symptom of multiple sclerosis for 6 years.
Yeah, yeah. I've had clients completely reverse their autoimmune scores and symptoms just by doing carnivore. Not even perfect carnivore, just generally carnivore with a little bit cheated here and there, and still the autoimmunity went away. It's shockingly powerful.
And you mentioned 20, 25 grams of carbohydrates. Some people doing basically a ketogenic diet
Hmm.
certainly have improvements. By the way, Dr. Kiltz did a 15-day fast last month. I did a 22-day fast.
Uh-huh.
And for the last week or 10 days, about 10 days of my fast, my ketones were in the high fours the whole the whole time. I
Wow.
think my highest was 4.9,
Yeah.
and I could feel it.
You
Anyways,
could feel
but
euphoric, right? I've had
oh
clients
yeah,
do that, and and yeah, this like they report and they're working out, they're doing everything. They might be taking electrolytes and things like that, but they're yeah, once their ketones hit 4, 5, 6, I think I had a client go like to like 8. That wasn't when he was working with me. He told me the story before he started working with me that he had done that the year prior and like he was feeling euphoric on that.
yeah. You certainly, by the way, just a warning. You don't have to do prolonged fasting, and you don't have to have ketones that high for
True.
you to get the benefits. Uh, and talking about fasting, do you do any fasting?
I used to do like full day fast or alternate day fasting where it was
Okay.
one full day, not no meal, the next day OMAD, one meal a day. But I work out and I lift and I run. It's kind of difficult to get all the protein in and enough sodium in by doing that. So I prioritize the fitness part of it, which makes the full day fast not something that I want to pursue. But I do eat when I'm hungry, and usually I'm not hungry in the morning. Just when you're in a state of ketosis, you don't wake up with hunger. So it ends up being like sometimes I'll just be at 19, 20, 22 hour fast just because I got busy all day and then, but I try not to do that also too much because again, it's difficult for me to get all of my protein in within just one meal.
How many meals a day do you have?
Two, generally just two, sometimes three, but rarely. It's usually two because again, like the fact that you don't have breakfast, if I am to wake up and just kind of force myself to have breakfast, then I'll eat 3 meals a day. You'll just feel hungrier sooner. But it almost always ends up just 2 meals a day. Rick, her
What do you
husband is older but looks great. Thank you, Rick. He bought bodybuilding.
uh, you eat twice a day?
Yeah.
What's your does a day or week look like
Mm.
in your way
Meats,
of eating?
basically seafood. I do like shrimp. I like lobster tails with garlic. I do garlic or butter with the shrimp and the lobster, and I do bacon with that. For some reason, it's this mix of soft seafood with crispy bacon. I just love it so much. That's a very common meal I'll have. I love air fried chicken wings with some whipped butter on the side. You take out the whipped butter and you leave it out until it's really fluffy for you leave it out for hours, and then I'll put the chicken wings in the air fryer for like half an hour. Technically they tell you just put them for 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes, but I like them really crispy, so I'll leave them for half an hour, 25 minutes to half an hour, and they're absolutely delicious. That's another major one. Also chicken drumsticks are pretty good, but chicken wings are better. Ground beef, I love the 80/20, like the fatty beef. Just beef burgers with some cheese. I go through phases with cheese, without cheese. Yeah, I don't read too much into it. If I feel like having cheese, I'll have the cheese. And bacon always. Yeah,
I have cheese frequently, and sometimes I can overeat it because
it can.
it can be addictive a little bit.
You
But
got to be very
it,
careful with that. Yes.
yeah,
Like my husband cannot. My husband cannot stop. If he starts having cheese, he will not stop. I don't have that kind of, like, for me it's more like with the carby stuff that it's difficult to regulate. But with the cheese, I don't know, it doesn't do that like for my brain. But I think, yeah, I think it has to do with the genetic, there are genetic differences in the opioid receptors, right? And so some people just respond more when the opioid receptors, because that's what cheese does, right? It's got casein, which turns into casomorphine, just like the opioids, like morphine, right? It attaches to those opioid receptors and it activates them. Rick, I followed your channel for at least 2 years. Thank you, Rick. Miss Low a lot. Da-da-da.
Miss Laugh a Lot, Nikki is asking, Dr. Nelson, do you measure your stomach cell production before and after you fast? I did measure glucose and ketones because I have a keto mojo and I use it sometimes. But we're not that big on tracking, Nikki. I mean, so I do recommend patients sometimes to track certain things if they're having a problem. But back to the basics: eat the fatty meat, eat once or twice a day. Don't be eating, 17 times in a day, putting things in your mouth.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
basically, when you're doing a ketogenic diet, uh, and you mentioned you're not hungry in the morning because when you're doing a ketogenic diet, it's very easy to not eat because you are not hungry. You're not having
true.
this starving hunger pain.
True. Yeah, the
Uh,
hunger aspect is very easily overcome, right? When you do keto carnivore, but that's not what trips most people up, right? It's the addictive, it's the addiction, it's that dopamine that they want, right? And so even though they're not hungry at all doing keto or carnivore, they're still gonna cheat and they're still gonna go or just fantasize about the cookies and the puddings and all that kind of stuff. And so this is where figuring out your reason, the psychology, the mindset aspect of it comes in, which I really spend most of my time when I'm coaching clients more so on that than just the calories or the macros, or should we add in this food or that food. This is the easy stuff. It's a psychological thing. That's where the real work is. It's like, why are you doing it? Are you happy in your life? Because if you're like depressed and bored with your life, like, no diet's gonna work. There's gonna be a void that you're trying to fill. And so the work is what can fill that void. What is it that gets you motivated, excited? What brings you to life? Do you have limiting beliefs? Are you suppressing your own desires and needs? Are you in alignment with who you are? Do you even know who you are? So many people have forgotten because they just grew up, especially women, right? We're kind of brainwashed into always prioritizing the needs of others, and prioritize attachment and connection at the expense of alignment. And then before you know it, you wake up and you're like, why? What's the point of this? And so no diet is going to work in that case unless you understand that aspect of it.
uh, your doctor's degree is in exercise physiology and nutrition.
Mm,
And I know you also have an exercise routine. What does that
yes.
look like?
Yeah, so my working out is very important, especially for mental health, right? Especially for optimizing my mood and my energy and my motivation. And so all my workouts are dedicated specifically to raising my baseline dopamine. In other words, it's not just about raising the amount of dopamine you release, because every time you work out, you're going to release dopamine, and that's fantastic. But what's more important is to increase the dopamine receptors in your brain, the dopamine D2 receptors in your brain. Because when you release dopamine in your brain, you won't feel its effects until it attaches to the receptor on its adjacent. Like, you release dopamine from a brain cell, it has to attach to its receptor, the D2 receptor, on an adjacent brain cell. It's like a lock and key situation. Once that happens, that's when you feel amazing and you feel the pleasure and you feel high and you feel mentally excited and happy. What happens when we go through a lifetime of eating addictive foods and junk food or just not being disciplined, or there's so many things, but usually it's the sugar addiction, the food addiction, right? If you eat in a certain way like that for a long period of time, over time you destroy the number of the D2 dopamine D2 receptors in your brain. And so now, even though you're releasing dopamine because you had a cupcake, or you're doing something enjoyable that's releasing dopamine, you don't really feel the joy of life anymore. You don't really feel the effects of dopamine because you don't have enough dopamine D2 receptors. So you're releasing dopamine, but there are no D2 receptors. So that lock and key situation never happens. You don't feel anything. You feel just blah, like a zombie, anhedonia, right? Just kind of going through life, going through the motions, but not really excited or happy.
So what do you do to increase the number of receptors?
Exactly. So the workouts, I run and I lift. The running though, it's not like a cardio joyride. If you're really having a fantastic time, it's like too easy, you're not really going to raise your D2 receptors as much. It's if you haven't run before and you started running, sure. It always has to be a form of exercise that's slightly outside your comfort zone, because when you get a little bit uncomfortable, that sends a signal to your brain to release and create more D2 receptors and more dopamine as well, because dopamine is an anesthetic. So that's the only situation in which you give the brain a good reason to spend time and effort and its resources to create more of those dopamine D2 receptors. It takes work to do that. And so, why would your brain waste its resources on doing that unless you give it a good reason? And that reason is the slight discomfort you're feeling during your workout. And so, cardio is more effective. I mean, they're all effective, but I feel that cardio seems to be more powerful than strength training. You still want to strength train because it's still going to help, but and you want to maintain muscle, and you want to strengthen your bones, but the cardio is really where it's at when it comes to raising your baseline dopamine levels. In other words, increasing the number of D2 receptors.
Very good. Uh, Miss Laugh a lot had a follow-up question.
Okay.
Uh, I know tracking is English with your teaching, but I will be curious. So, yeah, the answer was no, we didn't. I didn't do any. Actually, Dr. Kills, who usually is more dismissive of tracking things, he tracked a little bit more. He did some blood tests. He measured his insulin level a few times during his fast. I just checked my glucose and ketones, and that was it. And for certain conditions, if you're especially anything brain related, I believe you do need to make sure you're in ketosis. And brain related, whether it's mental or physical problems or autoimmune problems related to the brain, I think the best results are going to be when you're in nutritional ketosis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, for a lot of conditions we're trying to reverse, you don't necessarily need to be uh, obsessively tracking everything. And if you like to track, that's that's great. But some people feel sometimes like, oh, I gotta track this, and they're being pressured by social media or other people to track something when your own feeling better when you're doing this. It's hopefully for most people, I'm not saying everyone, but for most people, it's good enough. If you're feeling good with what you're doing, then continue doing what you're doing, right?
Yeah, yeah. If it becomes this overwhelming thing that's going to keep you from making changes, don't be paralyzed by perfection and that, oh, I have to track everything and I have to do that. And just start with what you feel comfortable with starting with.
All right, we have a question here. Keto Carnivore Edens, what is your opinion of the new trend in the keto YouTubers microdosing GLP-1s without being diabetic? Sarah.
Ooh, who's doing that? Who are the keto YouTubers that are microdosing GLP-1?
There are a few. there are a few, and I do have an opinion, but I want to hear you first
Hmm.
uh, on the GLP ones.
Well, I first of all appreciate the honesty that they would come out because I know a lot of doctors whose clients tell me, "Oh yeah, they're on GLP-1," and those are like major figures that are promoting carnivore or keto, but they're not publicly disclosing that they're taking a GLP-1 medication. So whoever is like publicly saying that, that's kudos to them. I'm glad that they're honest about it. I mean, I I don't know. I feel like we have so many options. We like if it's the last option and you're just so adamant to and resistant to changing your lifestyle that the only thing that's going to save your life is to take GLP-1. Listen, I'll do, it's like the person who's terribly depressed. I'm not going to tell them don't see a psychiatrist, or just eat meat and go out in the sun. Like if the guy's about to end it, like no, please take the
Yeah,
medicine. Same thing with the GLP-1. I just feel like there is just so much we could do before we do that. Do we really? What it does is slows down the rate of digestion, right? And I've had clients try it. Lots of clients actually trying it, seeing the best doctors, like as in popular in Miami, they put them on these drugs, and then it just the SIBO, the gut imbalances start to happen. They're burping all the time. They're feeling miserable. They're throwing up, and then eventually they come back and like, okay, now let's do it the right way. So I I would not push that or recommend that as a first line treatment for the vast majority of people.
I think I agree with you. I'm a traditional doctor. That's what I've been doing for over 40 years. But you have to be careful with the medications and only use them when indicated. And when you've tried lifestyle changes, we always talk about that, right? So the thing is, with a very low carbohydrate diet and a carnivore diet, all the things that GLP ones do happen with a very low carbohydrate diet, whether it's carnivore or not.
Ketones trigger GLP-1. Protein
Yes.
triggers GLP-1.
Yeah.
Exercise. I mean, there are lots of things.
So, uh, however, there are people who, and this is not everyone, but there are people who may get to a point where they need some extra help. And in particular, because the GLP ones originally and still are basically indicated for people with diabetes, pre-diabetes.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
if you need to use a medication, it's not a failure on your part. Sometimes some people believe, oh, I don't want to use any medicine, and sometimes they don't use the medication to their own detriment. But
Yeah,
if
right.
it's something that you must do, I rather you use a GLP-1 than go and have gastric bypass surgery, for example, which is
Yeah,
disfiguring, and
yeah,
you end up causing an anatomy
yeah,
variance that's very hard to reverse.
yeah,
So I'm not opposed to them. I still, up until earlier this year, when I was still seeing patients on a regular doctor's office, I would prescribe sometimes a GLP-1, but with a lot of warnings. You
yeah,
have to exercise,
yeah.
especially resistance,
The
to
people
help.
want it, even if you're trying to, like, they want it. It's like you
Yes,
can't,
yeah.
there's not much you can do except what you've done, just at least give them the warning.
And I would certainly not prescribe it until we had many things clear, possible side effects. One of the main mechanisms of action is lowering of your gastric motility.
Mm,
So
yeah,
that's where you get the burping and the gastroparesis and the
yeah,
SIBO and all these possible side effects.
yeah. Did you know some
Uh,
people are willfully removing themselves off of it because it seems to give some people depression? Some people out there's a I did a YouTube video just like a few months ago. There was a new report that came out how many people have committed suicide while taking it, and the depression coincided with taking the medicine. And so there are a lot of people who are willfully stopping the drug. I think it's like an 80% attrition rate. 80% of people quit it within less than 2 years. And a big part of that is you just get depressed. You don't feel any joy. It's not that you no longer feel the joy from eating desserts and stuff, so you're not interested. It's just there's no joy in life. So it's like, what's the point, you know?
So I personally am not opposed, but you would
Yeah,
have to really
yeah,
pick the patient very carefully. It's not a thing for everyone.
yeah. So
And
the
it's not a
doctor,
substitute either to changing your diet to the
yes,
species specific diet and the most optimum way with exercise, with sleep, with stress reduction, all these things which affect blood sugar as well
yes,
before going. Now, you may have tried everything else, and this might be the only solution. So, with a big warning, I
yeah.
wouldn't be opposed to it.
Yeah. Like if you take it and you start losing weight and that gives you momentum and motivation to start changing your diet, that would be fantastic, you know? But then just keep in mind that maybe it's a good idea to wean yourself off of it and just keep the momentum going with your lifestyle. Like if you can do that, even better, because then you're not worried about some side effects that might happen from that, right?
All right. So, if you have any other questions, please put them in the chat with a QQQ.
Yes.
And yes, I mean, I could mention the names, but there are some people on YouTube and some doctors even that
Yeah.
have
We see
used
we
it.
have them in the chat. I did. So,
Yeah, and it's I in the right circumstance is okay. I'm not gonna criticize that. By the way, I just saw this weekend because I'm in San Diego for a low carb USA. Uh, I just saw these particular two that you guys have mentioned here. I even had dinner with one of them. So
I think I know who. Yeah, again, it's not, the thing is, if that's what people want, at least give them the information on how to do it right,
yeah.
and just and give them so that they can make that informed decision. Would I personally take it? I personally would not, but like I said, I would not tell somebody who's it's either that or they're never going to change their diet. Like maybe in that case it's a good idea to get that momentum going, it does a lot for the food noise. It's like because we still don't fully understand how it works on addiction, but it affects the insula, the part of the brain that's also implicated heavily in food addiction, and it tones that down. So you're no longer, because that's really what most people are struggling with. It's not really the hunger; it's eating to get that dopamine hit.
And there are many more coming down the pipe. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Multiple that will either later this year or next year. They're going to be some of them even being indicated for mental disorders, and some of them already in the market are indicated for decreasing your cardiovascular risk. And
Mm-hmm.
among the ones available, the Terzepatide or Manjaro or Zepbound, those are the brand names. They seem to be a little bit better. Well, that one is definitely, I think, a little bit better than the rest.
Mm,
But there are others coming out uh,
yeah. Oh, this is
that are
just the
being
beginning.
studied.
I'm sure they're gonna keep
Yeah.
doing more research. I think, like, if you look at the fitness industry, it's the biggest chunk of the marketplace are these medications right now.
Uh, Talk a little bit more about what you usually coach your
Mm.
people in relation to the addiction aspect.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I would say that most of my clients gravitate towards me because of that specific thing, as opposed to just, the calories and the macros and the weight loss, even though that's also a major part of what I do. But the addiction aspect, I think, is very unique in that nobody else is targeting that specific topic. So a large part. of the work that we do is raising baseline dopamine, increasing D2 receptor numbers. And what are the things that you can do to keep raising and raising and raising and raising those D2 receptors so that your baseline mood and baseline motivation, baseline energy keep going up? Because the amount of D2 receptors you have in your brain is equivalent to your energy level. It is equivalent to your mood. And so if your baseline mood is generally low and depressed, that means your D2 receptors are pretty low. And so, how can we raise that? And there are different ways you can do that. We talked about exercise, but again, not any exercise. It has to be done in a specific way with progressive overload and also the recovery aspect, because if you're overtrained and under recovered, that also affects your baseline dopamine. There's that, there's the alignment aspect. Are you aligned and with your true needs, or are you sacrificing yourself with people pleasing, not being able to set boundaries in order to prioritize attachment and connection to the people around you? That's a big one, why people can't stick to the diet. So the like the psychological aspect and the just the physical aspect, and how we can raise D2 receptors in so many ways, because again, like not everybody also can work out, and so there are other things we can do to also raise D2 receptors. There's a lot that goes into it, but at the same time it's simple.
You mentioned, and I think I agree with you. You mentioned people who are very frequently concentrated on the service of others very often uh, don't tend to their own needs. And I see how in women that will be more frequent than in most men.
Yeah.
The same, the this advice when you get on an airplane, of course, if the oxygen mask drops, you're supposed to do what? Put it on first, because if you don't help yourself first, you're not going to be able to help the ones around, right? Several years ago, in a study, there was about a third of the people that are caregivers died before the person they were caring for.
Oh, wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, talking about chronically ill patients and the main caregiver, which very often is the spouse or child,
Yeah.
about a third of the people actually died before the patient they were caring for.
I
That's
can
a
see
huge
that.
number, 33%. And most of those is because they were not taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
So you
Wow.
have
I
to,
see
yeah,
that. Yeah.
you have to
I
take care
see
of
it with
yourself
so many
first.
clients. Yeah. And it's just that you just don't want to get out of bed in the morning anymore when you feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. And a lot of times it's self-imposed. You don't have to put yourself in that position. But when you live a life where you've never set boundaries, when you've always said yes and you'd never felt comfortable saying no, it's a muscle that you train, and it takes a little bit of time to train it. Just like with everything, the more practice, the more reps under your belt, the better you're going to get, and it then becomes easier and easier to prioritize your happiness. And yeah, like that is a big reason for why I'm able to do what I do. Also my hubby, thankfully that he's very aligned, and it's like very aware of what makes him happy, what doesn't. Like nothing else matters if you're not if you don't have joy and happiness. Nothing else matters. I don't care how much money you can make doing something else. I don't care. Nothing matters. What's the point of it all?
You have to live. That's very similar thinking to. I've been talking about this. A lot of people are are seeking longevity, right?
Mm,
Now, we have no idea how long we're going to live. I don't know if I'm going to be dead tomorrow or not. And I don't know if I'm going to be 92 like my dad,
mm,
or 67 like my mom when she passed.
mm.
But the quality of life, that probably is something we have more control of. So it doesn't matter if you're going to live. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but because we don't know, we also don't know what it impact we're having on the life expectancy with what we're doing.
Yeah.
But I think if you're improving your quality of life, which then you can enjoy enjoy your life. that's more important than whether I can add 1 year or 10 years to my life expectancy, because I have no freaking idea how long
Nope,
I'm going to live.
nope, no. I
But
mean, anything. An airplane could crash into this house right now. I mean, it's crazy. And the older you get, the more you realize this is insane. Like life is just crazy. I mean,
yeah,
the way things that happen every day, we're just lucky to have woken up this morning.
from your lips to God's ear.
Yeah, yeah,
I if I I have a grandfather, great grandfather who was 100. My grandmother was 93. My dad, uh,
nice,
so it was my grandmother on my dad's side. She was 93. My dad was 92. I have an uncle who's over 90. So
nice.
on that side of the family, there is longevity. But
I
I
love it.
don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
I'm 65, by the way. I
Mm,
maybe I'll be 95. Maybe I'll be 66. I have no idea. But my
yeah,
quality of life has improved greatly in the past 3 years by mainly changing my diet, and you can see
I love
the
it.
difference
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, yeah, just and also just losing weight. Even if somebody is watching and is not ready to go like full-blown carnivore, I know that sometimes people freak out if they feel like that's the only way. Just losing weight alone is going to do so much for your mental health, right? And then you can clean up the diet as you go. Like don't be paralyzed by perfectionism, you know? But that yeah,
Yeah,
that's amazing.
perfect. This is how I view perfection. I happen to have a slide that I use when I talk about being perfect, because
Yeah,
uh, yes, you should uh, try to achieve perfection, but have in mind that you're never gonna be perfect. So don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
exactly,
Any
exactly.
victory that you have is positive, and
Yes. Yeah.
as close as you can come to being perfect. But you cannot chastise yourself, because
Yeah.
in this conversation we talked about addiction. Don't get all depressed and guilt ridden because you had a cookie, or
Right.
next meal
That's
do right.
exactly. What that used to really sink me. I used to feel like if I had a cookie, then it would turn into a binge because I would feel so disappointed, and I would have been just fine having a cookie. And just get back like the next meal, just go back to eating right the next meal. And it took me a while to snap out of this like all or nothing thinking. And
Yeah,
so yeah, thank you for saying that. That sinks so many people. It's like
yeah,
either I'm strict, strict, strict carnivore, and then if I break it, I had a client, he did great for 90 days. One concert that he went to, had a couple of beers, and then went to have pizza, and he was off the carnivore diet for a whole year.
yeah. Now don't I'm not promoting eating cookies, and I know Dr. Zaldivar is not promoting eating pizza.
No, no, no.
But
I'm just
but
saying you have it.
the next step to do when you do something like that is, okay, your next meal, you right. Don't wait until next Monday, next month, or next year, because that turns into sometimes a long
Yes.
time.
Yes. Even if you have three cookies, let's say, you're not gonna regain the weight. You're not gonna get back to having diabetes. It's just understand it was a slip. It's completely fine. Forgive yourself very, very quickly and get back on it. Wake up, work out, get back to a steak, to whatever you like to have. It's not that one little slip that messed up the results. It's the fact
Con-
that you got disappointed in yourself and you just made so big of a deal out of it. That's the real issue.
Consistency is more important than perfection,
Thank
basically.
you.
So,
Yes.
get back on the horse. Just
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And especially like in the food addiction world, because I was very much into it. And when you get into the addiction, especially with food addictions, like if you have, a relapse, and like even the word that they put to it, like it makes it out to be a very, very big thing, you start to act in a way that you're told you're going to act. Like if you have a bite, you will not be able to stop. And so the more you start to believe in that stuff, and the more you actually like immerse yourself in that world, you start to act in that way. It's like, oh my gosh, I just had something that tasted a little bit sweet, and oh my gosh, it was a trigger, which means I'm excused right now to go and have whatever because I already broke the sobriety. And it's all psychology. It's all like what you allow yourself to believe. You start to act in that way. But yeah, it's a journey. It's a journey. We learn along the way.
Yeah. So where can we find you? And it's
Yes,
easy because you Google her name and you'll find her. But where
it's
can we
easy.
find you? What's your favorite place for people to come to you?
I guess YouTube and Instagram is where I am most active. Dr. Sarah Zaldivar. So on Instagram, it's at Dr. dot Sarah with an H dot Zaldivar. Basically, my name with just dots in between. And then my website, of course, drsarahzaldivar.com. If you want coaching, it's drsarahzaldivar.com/coaching. If you want to learn about the brain rehab protocol that I use to increase D2 receptors and increase baseline dopamine, you can find the guides on my website, drsarahzaldivar.com/shop. This is where you find the dopamine brain. What I would recommend is looking at the fitness bundle. The fitness bundle has those three main guides: dopamine brain, monster mindset, and dopamine body. And they all help you lose weight while raising your baseline dopamine and just understanding how to work with your brain. And then, yeah, my YouTube channel is just my name, Dr. Sarah Zaldivar. It's very easy to find me. There is no other name like that on YouTube.
Yeah. It's Sarah with an H,
Most
and it's
very important. The H is
Zaldivar with
very
a
important.
Z.
Yes, Z.
Uh, I believe I read somewhere. I
Yeah.
I think I mentioned number one that I was born and raised in Puerto Rico.
Hmm.
You were born
So,
in Lebanon, right?
yeah, I'm Lebanese. Yeah, that's right. I lived
Okay.
all my life in Lebanon. Have you ever been to that part of the world?
I have not. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very dangerous. Don't go. I'm not a very good I don't do a really good advertising because well basically I kind of fled there, I was like, oh my gosh, nope, that's I'm not gonna be here. That's why I left to do my PhD, because I just could not see myself stuck really in Lebanon. All of my classmates, all of the dietitian friends that I went to school with, they all either like very few actually stayed in Lebanon. Most of them will go to like Dubai or some of the Middle Eastern countries that have better employment and better wages, or like they get married and have kids. And I did not want to stay in that part of the world. I'm like a very feisty, I'm very rebellious inside. It's like, nope, it's gonna be. And so I just kind of looked at anything like I was looking at Spain, Australia, Canada, any kind of PhD program in those countries. And then, of course, when Miami was like, okay, you can come to UN, I was like, okay, that's it. And that's basically why I chose to do my PhD. I love to learn, and it was also a way to leave Lebanon.
And but you were not in Florida initially. You were in another state, right?
No, no, I flew
Or
straight to Miami.
oh, okay. So
Yeah,
pretty much you've been in Florida all these years since you came.
since 2012.
I,
Yeah, been wow.
all right.
Oh, wow, 13 years? No, 14 years. That's
I've
yeah,
been in Florida for
13
uh,
years.
30 years, and
For
I
30
did spend.
years?
I've been 30 years. Yes, here.
Wow.
My back surgery and my son, who was born the same month, was in New York in 1987, and then I spent 8 years in Massachusetts. It was 7 years, 364 days too long. 9 months, 9 months of winter. I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
But I've been for 30 years here in Florida. Well,
No, I think like once you live in Florida, it's hard to go back to a colder environment, right? Like, I don't know. The opportunity has to be so tempting to leave Florida. It's just, I love the warmth too much. I
all
get
right.
it. Yeah.
Any last words? Dr. Salvar?
It was a pleasure meeting you, Dr. Nelson. Say hi to Dr. Kiltz for me, and thank you everybody for sticking with us. I hope you enjoyed it, and we were a little bit helpful. Yeah, and that's it.
All right. Thank you very much for being here. Tomorrow morning, 6 a.m., will be on the 6 a.m. Eastern time, even though it's 3 a.m. for me, by the way, because I'm in San Diego still, and I will be until
Oh,
Friday. And
that's
then
brutal.
whoever is in Columbus, Ohio this weekend, we're gonna be in Columbus, Ohio for a Healing Humanity event. Dr. Kills is a big sponsor of the Healing Humanity efforts for the documentary that they're working on. And I think you were with Kerry Mann earlier this year, right?
Yeah, I interviewed him, and then he interviewed me for his channel.
Okay.
Carrie's
Uh,
story is just fantastic. He's great. He's doing great, great work.
yeah. All right. Have a good day, everyone. I'm going to, as soon as I finish here, go and eat some meat.
Enjoy. Bye, everyone.